Welcome, everybody, to Taking Control, the ADHD podcast. I'm Pete Wright. That there is Nikki Kinzer.
Hello, Pete Wright.
How are you, Nikki?
I'm good.
You feeling good? Feeling strong? Is your kung fu strong?
Kung fu?
Yeah. Is your chi?
Yes.
How's your chi?
Good. Although I had to say my phone was just distracting me, so I had to turn it upside down so I didn't see the text messages coming through.
That's really important.
Yeah.
I actually had to do the same thing. My wife was texting me to see if I would move money in our bank account. I can't think about this right now.
Well, I got a text from a client and I thought it said, "Hey, baby." And I'm thinking, well, that's a little weird.
You run a very strange service.
I know. I can't stop laughing.
It's a whole different kind of ADHD coaching niche, I think.
Actually, what it said is "not badly." I was just asking how her day was going, and she said "not badly," and I thought it said, "Hey, baby."
Hey, baby, it's all right.
There you go. My chi is good.
Awesome. I'm really glad you started that way because we're talking more about work.
Yes,
and
we are.
What a valuable experience to segue right into organizing your workplace if you're struggling with ADHD.
Yeah. First, take note of making sure that you reread your text messages
before you respond.
Yes. Make sure you actually are seeing what they wrote, not what you think they wrote.
This episode follows up on our, we started by talking about, back to work. Picking the right job, picking the right career. How do you gauge the right work for you if you're struggling with ADHD, something that really capitalizes on your experiences and your strengths? And then I
have to tell you, Pete, I'm sorry, I'm going to completely interrupt you.
Do it.
But this is a hot topic right now. I don't know if you noticed, but I'm getting all kinds of the things from different organizations from that talk about ADHD about the workplace. So this is kind of a hot thing right now. So
I think it is. I think it is, and I think the timing, the season is right. I made a joke about back to school is back to work, but this is a time of great transition. This sort of August, September timeframe, and I think we're all thinking about it. I know I am, and that's why I'm excited to talk about this topic: organizing your workspace. So let's assume you've picked the right career and you've nailed your interview, which we talked about last week. Now you're setting up your desk. How do you do it and set yourself up for success in a way that, again, leverages your strengths?
That's right. Well, and I think it's important that we highlight, what organization can do for you, especially if you're starting a job and you want to make a good impression. It can definitely, help increase that productivity that you're looking for, can save you time, saves embarrassment, right? If somebody is asking you for something, you'll know where to find it. And you're going to feel more confident about your job and more in control of your workday, which are all wonderful things. And so there's lots of benefits to consider when you're organizing your workspace and why to take the time to do it, why it's important. So I have to put that in there. That motivation is important.
I think it's hugely important. Where do you start? I mean, I bring this up because, we talked sufficiently about some of the challenges that face you if you're struggling with ADHD at work?
What do you mean exactly?
Well, I know we've talked about it in the past that the things you struggle with at work are similar to the things you struggle with at home, right? You have time management, organization, but it becomes. I think these challenges are exacerbated by the fact that you're working typically with other people and in teams, and the frustration that can come from not feeling like you are totally in control when it comes to listening or taking turns or following directions or dealing with details or even sitting still and managing your emotions when you find you are stressed and under dealing with anxiety. When I think about organizing at work, it's all about putting systems in place that mitigate the natural stresses of ADHD. Would that be a fair way to put it?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that there is that, what you were kind of talking about too, is that added pressure that you're working with other people. So, if you're organizing your home, yes, it affects the people that you live with, but you can also get away with more probably by leaving the clutter around and maybe not having the systems in place. But at work, you really can't, because
exactly.
then your job can be in huge jeopardy, especially if you're just starting out, because most companies have kind of that 90-day trial period. So you want that kind of good first impression and such.
When you're under a microscope.
Right. And there's a lot we could talk about when we talk about systems and workflow and things like that. But what I really want to focus on today is just really the actual organization of the workspace, and keep it at that level, because I think if we go into too many systems and how we do this and when we do that, it's going to get kind of confusing.
Well, and I've got things to talk about systems coming up in a couple of weeks, so stand by.
Yes, absolutely. So where to start? That was a question that you initially asked. And I think that, in all of the organizing podcasts that we've done, and if you read my book and you have ever listened to me speak or done a workshop of mine, you'll know that sorting and that purging is really important. And so that's really where you start. Now, if you are brand new to the job, there's not going to be a whole lot you have to purge, right? I mean, because this is a new desk for you. Mm-hmm. But if you've been there for a while and you realize, I'm accumulating too many pens and pencils and, I don't need all of this extra stuff. That's what you kind of want to look at is, the less you have around you, the easier it's going to be for you to find what you need. So kind of figure out, how many pens and pencils do you really have to have instead of having a big, huge bucket, in front of you that has 100 pens. That's not necessary at this point.
I think pens are a leading indicator for disorganization.
Because you can't find one, so you always have one available?
Yeah, it's kind of the other side of that, too. It's like there's always a pen, and what do you do when you see a pen? You put it in a drawer. And eventually you have a drawer that is full of old pens, and that is a trigger for, that becomes the drawer to stash stuff. And then it's not, then you have old pieces of bacon, and, it just ends up being a mess.
That's right. And then the mice come. Because you have bacon
but you don't care because you have all these pens.
That's right. You have a pen. Well, and especially if you're going into somebody else's desk, right? Because a lot of times you'll take somebody's desk that you're replacing, and they may have left stuff in the desk that you don't need or want or care for. Don't feel like you have to keep it, So I would do a little bit of purging first. This isn't going to be too time consuming, only because, again, it's probably what we're talking about is somebody that's coming into a new position. But if you've been in your position for a while and you would like to do some organization of your workspace, then that's definitely where I would start first, is that purging and get rid of what you don't need. The second piece of or second tip that I have for people is to recognize what your top 10 items are. And what I mean by that are, what are the items that you use on a daily basis? And so for most people, you're going to think of your phone, your computer, maybe a notepad if you like to use notepads for notes. Maybe there's certain files that you go to every single day. Maybe you have an inbox on your desk, whatever those things are. But identify kind of around 10 items that are most important to you. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that you assign homes to those items first in your work spot. And the reason for that is those are the things that you get to on a regular basis. So it's important that you know exactly where they are, and it's important that they're very easy to get to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, you want to make sure that your computer is where you need it to be. You've got your trash can next to it. You got your phone, everything just to make the workspace easy for you to work in. So just identifying those top 10 items can be really important. If you're a fidgeter, then I would definitely say don't forget to include that into your top 10. If you need to have something in your hand when you're on the phone, make sure that's available to you. Make sure that you know where it goes when you're done with it, that kind of thing. So that's a very much an ADHD friendly tip.
Oh, yes. I strongly recommend the Rejuvenation Hand Invigoration Putty.
Yes.
The level is firm, and it is a fantastic ADHD brain tool.
And I have a little heart crystal that I put in my hand when I coach.
Yeah, that's another smooth. Any smooth stones are really very Very nice.
Very nice. And I have a little purple bag for it. So when it has like its little home and it goes in its little
sort
purple
of a satchel,
bag.
a little sachet.
Yes. Yes. So that is very important to include that into your top 10. Okay. So everything else that you have outside of that top 10 obviously also needs to have a home. And so we want to look at that. We want to be thoughtful in how we're putting things away and where we're putting things. And so remembering that core piece that organizing is about finding what you need when you need it. So you want to just make sure you're setting up your space really easy for you.
That is still a mantra around our house. And I think in terms of a catchphrase, for everything there is a place, and for every place there is a purpose. Like yes. that is such an important concept. It's straight out of obviously your book, but it's such an important concept. I think when you are either setting up or taking over your workspace, is to remember that even at work, even this place that you feel like is sort of transient, you owe it to yourself to determine the spaces and the purposes for each space in your office.
And you do that by assigning homes. That's exactly right. And so, and that includes every single pen, every single, tape dispenser, stapler, whatever. You want to make sure you know where those things are, assign that home, put them in the right drawer, so that when you take them out, you can put them back in. I mean, all of that. Same thing with files. Your most recent current files should be right near you, but those things that aren't used, rarely or ever can be put away, or most of those are in those areas that are inconvenient. That's the way to think is, what's important, start there first, and then everything else still needs to have a home, but you can kind of go outside of that triangle of those 10 items that are important. If it's kind of a visual for you.
Yeah.
So definitely. And then the last, or actually, I guess it's the last tip. And then I want you to talk about something that I think is important. But in step 4 of my book and taking control of your space, we talk about routines and daily habits. And I think this is really important. This particular step when you're talking about organizing your workspace, and really the reason it's so important is it goes back to that, conversation we had at the beginning where we are working with other people. And so that perception is real, and you want to make sure that you do some of these habits on a daily basis to keep the workspace organized. And that really comes down to having that daily cleanup. At the end of your day, take a few minutes and put your stuff away. File the papers that need to be filed. Have a spot for your current projects so that you can put those away in a nice, tidy way. Piles are not bad. Piles are great. They just need to be, probably neater piles than just random piles all around a desk. But if you can kind of put them in order, maybe put a sticky note on top of the first pile so you remember what it is. Those are those little reminders so that when you come back the next day, you know what that pile is without having to go through it. Just little tips and habits like that can make a big difference. So I definitely think that daily cleanup is really important. If we start falling behind, then that's when the desks tend to get really cluttered.
We still do that. I know we've talked about this in the past. We still do at the end of the day at home, the daily cleanup song. We put on sort of the latest kind of pop song, and we know we do a cleanup, and however long the song is, that's however long we clean up. And at the end of the song, it's over.
That's right.
Like we're finished. And if you're on top of it, if every day you kind of put a song in your head or turn on a tune on your computer while you just sort of clean up, straighten up, move forward, you'll stay on top of things, I think, with greater efficiency.
Absolutely. And it won't take you long. I mean, it literally will only take about 5 or 10 minutes. I was talking to a client the other day. We were talking about her dorm room because she lives in her dorm with 2 other students, and they all have desks. And she was talking about her desk and how does she keep it organized and clean. And that was one of the things I said is it's not going to take you very long. Every 5 minutes or every night for 5 minutes. Not every 5 minutes. Can you imagine? Every 5 minutes, clean up. But at the end of the evening, every 5, I keep saying every 5, 4 or 5 minutes, do that cleanup and just get those papers in the binder, put them in the file, put the pencils in the drawer or in the cup, whatever. And it just makes an amazing difference on how you feel and the perception that you're giving out to either your roommates or to your coworkers.
Absolutely.
The last thing that I want to point out is that routine, because that is also a big part of the last part of the book of taking control of your space, is just getting into a routine. And we will talk next week more about how to get the most out of your day. But I think it really does start with doing kind of a daily check of your calendar the night before. So as you're cleaning up, look at your calendar and look at what's up for tomorrow, what's next. And so if there's anything that you can kind of prepare or plan prior to the next day, that's really going to set you off on the right track when you come into your office the next day and you already know what's first. Like you already have that pile organized and in front of you or in front of the computer. I mean, it just really sets the tone. And we will talk more about this next week, but I wanted to kind of throw that out there, that I think getting into that routine of looking at the next day can really make a big difference.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
Okay. So my last thing is I want Pete to talk about, because he has personal experience with this. And this is very ADHD related in the sense that if somebody's very fidgety and they don't like sitting down, or they need to kind of get up and move, an alternative way to work is having a stand-up desk, right?
Yes. So,
tell us. You've had this for several years.
I not yet in many years, but definitely several years. I think going on 3 years. I've been working exclusively at a stand-up desk, and I made the transition. I'm at my desk a lot, and in my old desk, I was sitting a lot, and I started having some significant lower back pain and hip pain, and I was not, feeling like I was like my joints. I was feeling trouble in my joints. They weren't being worked enough. My knees, and so I decided, there was a craze 3 years ago. Everybody was so excited. A Twitter thing was trending. Like everybody's excited about the stand-up desk. So who am I not to jump on a meme? So I built these little like sleeves, these shelves to kind of fit my desk and lift it up. I kind of measured it appropriately, so ergonomically my elbows are bent appropriately, and I lifted my entire giant L-shaped desk up to standing desk height. So I got rid of my chair. It was extremely challenging initially. I'd say the first week was really tough, and I made the transition fairly slowly. I would start at a half hour a day, and the next day 45 minutes, trying to get up to an hour and a half, and then eventually, I didn't notice that I was standing anymore, and I think that was the big transition for me when I stopped thinking about it as a stand-up desk. It just became my desk, and never really wanted to go back. So I think the big question is, like, how does the desk really affect me in my ADHD? And I think you said it. It is extremely positive impact for me on the ability to focus, because I now have another channel for my when I get fidgety. Mm-hmm. Right? When I'm finding it difficult to focus and my body starts moving, I can actually now, instead of just moving my hands or swiveling or finding like that, I can now move my feet, and my feet are out of my way. Like they're beyond me. I can start swaying back and forth. I can, start kind of walking in place. I can move from foot to foot. Like it ends up looking like I'm distracted, but instead I'm just sort of channeling any of the fidgeting energy lower, leaving my hands and brain free to work on whatever's in front of me. And that's been very positive. I tend to keep my desk cleaner with the standing desk. I don't actually know why. I can't.
That's interesting.
That's like a change that happened, and I don't know why the stand-up desk has done that. Maybe it's because it's closer to my window, and when I walk by my front door, I can see into my desk. When it's a mess, it kind of pains me. But naturally, I keep my desk cleaner. I keep my projects more sort of isolated. My stacks are isolated, or at least discrete stacks on projects. And so it generally, I feel like I can relate to my desk better. I do, I do find when if I strain my ankle, or, if I have any other, sustain any other even minor injury on my knees or legs, this has happened a couple of times, you take a bad step and you kind of hurt your ankle, then the stand-up desk becomes a difficult thing to do. So luckily, I have a laptop. I go out and sit at the kitchen table for a couple of days and recover, and then I'm back at it.
Could you get like a stool? Like, you could probably get a stool easily,
You totally can,
Yeah.
and I don't. And that is, I'm constantly complaining about that. And this is one of those complaints that, Doc, I hate it when I go up when I lift my arm like this. Well, don't lift your arm like that,
Right.
I hate it that I don't have a stool. Well, Pete, go get a stool.
Go get a stool. That's
so
right.
That's definitely on my mind. I haven't made the move to the treadmill desk, and that's one that is this is a pretty controversial thing. First of all, because if you get one kind of right, I mean, the whole concept is you have a treadmill and an adjustable height desk that you're actually walking while you work. And most of these treadmills, they go up to about 4 miles an hour. So it's generally a slow walk, but it keeps you really moving.
Yeah, right.
In a sort of direction. I have heard some real mixed reviews of these treadmill desks. First of all, they're very expensive. I mean, they start, if you get one of the package deals, they start at like $2,000.
Wow.
From a company like Tread Desk or Trek Desk, and so that ends up being the first obstacle. The second is how you have to be pretty coordinated to be able to type while you're walking, or write while you're walking, or talk on the phone while you're walking. I could not, I think I can reliably say that I could not podcast while I'm walking.
No.
I think, I want to, so
yeah.
The flip side of that is we know we need to walk 10,000 steps a day. I mean, this is a best practice for heart health. And so if you find that just standing up is a step in the right direction, this may be, another opportunity for you to really take that 10,000 step challenge while you're working. So that's it.
And I just want to add, I have two different clients who are kind of doing a combination of what you just talked about. So I have one client who has a stand-up desk where her computer is, but then she has a sitting desk where she actually does more of like the paperwork and where she meets with clients, but then she'll get up and stand up to go to her computer. And she may have a laptop, I'm not sure, that sits on the other desk, but she kind of has both, right? Mm-hmm. So she can kind of go back and forth. So that's one way to do it. If you didn't want to just go straight to just only having the standing desk, or at least get the stool, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I misspoke. Like the Tread desk is $2,000 to start, but you cannot get into a Trek desk, which isn't, it doesn't quite, it's not as like machine adjustable. You have to unscrew stuff to adjust it, but that starts at about $500 on Amazon. So that's another opportunity, and it's this big sort of kidney bean shaped desk that gives you all the treadmill controls and some space to work. So there are cheaper options to do it, and of course I've run into a number of people who do it. Who keep their feet moving by just building their own. If you have a treadmill, you can put a desk on it.
That's exactly it. And that was the client that I'm thinking of. That's exactly what she did, is she kind of made it work for herself, where I don't know exactly how she did it, but the computer can fit onto the treadmill and she can do it. But she doesn't use that as her everyday desk. Yeah. That is more of if she's in a conference call and she's not really speaking, she can listen to the conference call and be on the treadmill. Or, I think she's actually picked certain kinds of work that she would do on it. Again, being able to go back to the sitting desk whenever she wants to, and having the laptop and that. So it's sort of a combination of both worlds. I think it'd be hard to do the treadmill desk completely, but I don't know. I mean,
it would be a challenge for me.
If anybody's doing that, let us know.
Yeah, right. And how's it working out for you?
Yeah. So there you go.
Yes. It is all, that is some good stuff. So I really like, have you been thinking about doing a stand-up desk yourself?
No, not seriously. Nope. I'll just throw that out there. Yeah. I was thinking about doing some, and I'm going to screw up the pronunciation, but I was thinking about doing some feng shui.
Feng shui. Yeah.
So I'm considering that.
I'm so glad I brought up your chi.
Yeah.
You got to get your chi flowing. I can tell you, your office is all messed up right now. You are absolutely anti feng shui. You want to know why?
Because I'm facing the door. I mean, I'm
Your
facing
back,
away from
energy daggers. That's what those are in feng shui. You are being stabbed in the back right now, and you don't even know it.
I know, right? And I do know that because I did a little bit of research the other day, and I saw that, and I'm like, whoops. So that's the only real consideration is I'm trying to figure out maybe if I need to move my desk around. But...
You're a danger in your own skin right now. Your chi is just screaming to get out.
I'm going to get a live plant. Maybe that will kind of balance it out a
Yes,
little bit.
that's what you need. And just put it in the doorway.
There you go.
A giant one.
That's right.
This has been awesome. Do we have any other news or updates for the people?
Nope, that's it.
Excellent. Hey, everybody, thanks for listening to our continuing series on ADHD in the workplace. Next week, goodness, what are we talking about next week?
It is getting the most out of your day next week.
Oh, that'll be good. Being more effective. That's what we're going to talk about next week. We're very excited about that. And so you should check out head out and, go over to iTunes. That is where it is really helpful. And we have gotten some of the kindest comments from people recently.
So sweet.
Who are just so sweet. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day and adding this to your task list, going over to iTunes and entering a kind review and a nice 5-star review. That certainly helps the show show up for other people who are searching for this kind of support. So if you think that the show has made a connection somehow with you, you think it would be helpful to friends and family, we sure appreciate it that you share the show. It's very kind of you to do that. We are honored to be in your ears every week. So that's it, I think. On behalf of Nikki Kinzer, I'm Pete Wright, and we'll catch you next week on Taking Control, the ADHD podcast.